Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a tutorial today, showing you guys how to get a very good Ditto, perhaps a perfect Ditto, for breeding Pokemon in Sun and Moon. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to show you guys the process step by step on how to get a 4 IV or better Ditto, and it's really not too hard at all. You pretty much need about a half hour to do it, and it doesn't take long, like I said, and you can get yourself a legitimate Ditto. Now, a lot of the time when you obtain a 6 perfect stat Ditto, and it's from Japan or whatever, chances are it was hacked or cloned, and it was cheated into the game, and we're trying to do it legitimately. So, I want to show you guys how to do it legit, and I want to show you that this method does work, and this works for any Pokemon. You can chain any Pokemon and get a good stat Ditto, but I'll show you an easy way to do it. And you can take a look at my Dittos. That one's actually a traded one, but most of them are from myself that I caught. And you can see they all have really good stats. They have at least 4 perfect stats in every stat. And I'm still looking for that elusive 5 IV Ditto where it has 5 perfect stats, but we've got quite a few really good ones here that we can use with breeding, and we can mix and match them to get the proper breeding combinations that we want. And I bred many Pokemon. You can actually take a look at some of my Pokemon that I bred. I bred a Flawless Wingull, a Flawless Gible, a Flawless Magikarp, a Flawless Bagon. So I've managed to breed all these Pokemon, and when I say flawless, I'm forgoing the stat that they don't need, like Cubone doesn't need its special attack, but I didn't want any speed on it. So this method will allow you to get those Dittos to breed, and it'll make the breeding process much easier if you want to play through the game legitimately like myself, and you only need a few things. Now, I do want to say that there's a number of different ways to go about this, but I personally believe that this is the best way to go in terms of making sure that you can not only catch the Ditto when you find the one you want, but if you find a shiny one, you can catch that as well. So I'm gonna jump into the video here, guys. If you do enjoy it, I hope you hit that like button for me, and definitely subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments section below if you've been able to find that elusive 5 IV Ditto as well. So what you're gonna need, guys, a few key things. You're gonna need a Pokemon with the move False Swipe. So I'm gonna be using Artemis here because Artemis is my starter Pokemon. It's my highest level Pokemon, and I do have the move False Swipe on it, which is really clutch. Allows me to essentially, be able to knock the Ditto down to 1 HP. The other thing you're going to want to have is the move Substitute, and you can see that I have Substitute as well. Most Pokemon in the game can learn Substitute. Substitute is really easy to grab. If you haven't got it yet, once you beat the game, go to Professor Kukui's house and talk to Kukui, and he will give you the move Substitute, and you can teach it to a Pokemon. The next thing you're going to need is a Pokemon with the move Trick or Switcheroo. So I'm actually using a Delmise here, and if you catch any Delmise and use the Heart Scale on it, which you can get if you go to the top of Mount Lanakila in the Pokemon Center there, you can use a Heart Scale, talk to the lady in the corner, and she'll teach your Pokemon a move. So I taught him Switcheroo. You can also use the move Trick as well. It's pretty easy. Kadabra learns it, I think, level 35 or so. So you just want to be able to get a Leppa Berry and Trick. You want to be able to use the Leppa Berry, which is an item that is going to restore your power points or your attacks, and you're going to want to trick that Leppa Berry or Switcheroo it to a Ditto. And there's one other thing you're going to need, and I'm going to actually grab that piece right now because I forgot to grab it before, and that's going to be a Smeargle or any Pokemon that knows just the move Recycle. So mine actually knows Sketch, so I'm gonna actually have to go delete that really quickly, but you're gonna want to have just the move Recycle. Now, you can watch my Smeargle tutorial on how to get that. It's pretty easy. You can catch a Trubbish and teach it with a Heart Scale to get Recycle and then delete the rest of its moves. You can also, get a Munchlax and teach it a Heart Scale as well, get the move Recycle. So there's a couple different ways to get Recycle, but ultimately, you just want to get Recycle on a Pokemon. And let me go fly to the move deleter. We'll show you guys where that is so we can delete this Sketch, and we can jump into the next part of the tutorial here. Alright guys, so here I am at the Hau'oli City Shopping District, and you can go right into the Pokemon Center here, and I believe there's a dude over here that'll be the move deleter. I think it's this guy, right? Yes, this is the move deleter, so you can come here if you want to delete the moves from your Pokemon. And the key here is you want to make sure that your Pokemon only has the move Recycle. What our plan here is going to be is to get the Ditto to transform into the Pokemon that only knows the move Recycle. Then we're going to use the move Trick or Switcheroo to give it a Leppa Berry, and that is going to make sure that that Ditto stays there permanently. And that way you don't have to worry about switching Dittos or it fainting itself or any of that stuff. Makes it super duper simple. So now what we're going to do, guys, we're going to fly to the location to find Ditto, which is going to be on the Ula Ula Island. So we're going to fly over to Ula Ula Island, and we're going to be going to the top of Mount Hokulani, which is Route 10, I believe. So we're gonna fly, or something like that, Route 10, something like that. We're gonna go to the top of Mount Hokulani here, and that's where you're gonna find Dittos. Now, I believe it's about a 10% chance to find one, but we've got all the materials we need now to make this work and make this happen, and it's actually pretty simple. So what we're gonna do is make sure we switch up our party here. I actually clicked the wrong button, but we're gonna switch up our party here, make sure our strongest Pokemon is in front, just to allow us to run from the wild Pokemon in case we run into any issues. You don't need the Delmise, just gonna use the Artemis first. So you need 3 things, man. You guys need the Pokemon with Switcheroo or Trick. You're gonna want to make sure they're holding the Lepaberry. So my Delmise is holding a Lepaberry right now. You're gonna want your False Swiper, which also knows the move Substitute, and then you're gonna need your Pokemon that has just the move Recycle. So pretty simple stuff there, and we're gonna make this super easy for everyone, and it's gonna be really, really easy. So let me actually cut until I find a Ditto, and we'll go from there. Our Ditto. So our Ditto has finally showed up. Took me about 10 minutes. So that might be the hardest part of this process. But once you find your Ditto, very, very simple process. I'm gonna explain everything as we go here. So what you're gonna do is you want your Ditto to transform into the Pokemon that only has the move Recycle. So I'm gonna switch out now, and I'm going to switch into my Recycle Smeargle. Now the reason for this is Ditto only has 1 attack, and that's Transform, and it only gets to use Transform once. If it doesn't work, then it actually knocks itself out. So you have to be very careful about that, okay? So now we've done that. We've turned it into a Smeargle that only knows Recycle, and again, you can use Trubbish, you can use whatever you want, just a Pokemon that only has the move Recycle. Now I'm gonna go into my Pokemon that has the move Switcheroo and is holding a Lepaberry. Again, you can use Trick on Alakazam or Kadabra or something like that. There's a number of different Pokemon that learn the move Trick, and there's other ways to go about this, but this is what I found to be the easiest way. Now I'm gonna go for the move Switcheroo, and I'm gonna give the Ditto my Lepaberry. Now by giving the Ditto the Lepaberry, once the Ditto, or the Smeargle rather, runs out of attacks, that's going to make it so it has 0 PP. It's automatically going to activate its Lepaberry, and we're going to find our first Ditto here. It's automatically going to activate its Lepaberry, and then from there, all you have to do, I'm actually going to knock this one out myself. I'm going to Anchor Shot it so he doesn't transform into me. I don't think Anchor Shot hits both opponents, so we're good. So I knocked out that Ditto, but you typically wouldn't do it this way. I'm just doing it so I can switch and hopefully not have him transform. So no Ditto's called. So again, you want to just make sure that the first Ditto, that Smeargle right there, is holding the Lepaberry and has the move Recycle. Simple as that. That's going to make it so he infinitely will always Recycle, use Lepaberry, restore its PP. 10 turns later, it's going to do it again, or 5 turns later rather, it's going to do it again. And this Ditto will infinitely stay on our screen, and we have to do nothing, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into Artemis here, or my Decidueye. Now it doesn't matter what you use, you just need a Pokemon with False Swipe, and then another Pokemon with Substitute. Mine happens to have both, but you don't need it to be on both. It really makes no difference. I'm just choosing to do it this way. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up my Substitute, and the reason why we use Substitute is because sometimes Dittos have the hidden ability Imposter, and that'll allow them to transform immediately instead of having to use the move Transform, and we do not wanna have the Ditto transform into us. It makes the situation a little bit harder to deal with. It makes it so you deal with it speed tying with you and some other shenanigans, so it's just easier to do it this way. So now I have a Substitute up, and that makes it so I'm immune to the Ditto transforming into me under any circumstances. No matter what, Ditto cannot transform into a Pokemon if you have a Substitute in front of you. So now what I'll do is I'll False Swipe the first Ditto, or the Smeargle, and that's going to bring it down to 1 health, and that's going to increase our chances of having it call in a friend. And then we're going to activate our Adrenaline Orb, as we know from our shiny tutorials, and the Adrenaline Orb is going to activate, and that is going to increase the chances that Dittos are called in. Now what we're going to do, guys, is simply just knock out the Ditto on the left side every single time until the 31st Ditto appears. Now if nothing happens, you can always go and use another Adrenaline Orb. It doesn't actually use the item, but rather simply just waste the turn and make so you don't have to attack anything. And we're gonna wait for Dittos to be called in. I was averaging over 100 Dittos an hour doing this method. So to get to 30, it takes about 20 minutes. It really doesn't take long at all. I'm going to Leaf Blade the Ditto on the left, and we're just going to continuously knock out the Ditto on the left until we have the 31st Ditto being called in. The 31st Ditto we will catch, and it will always have 4 perfect stats, and then we're gonna hope it has a 5th or a 6th perfect stat. And obviously there's always the chance that you find a shiny during this method, and if you do, you're welcome to catch it. So I'm actually going to skip out all this part right now, and I'm going to cut until I get to 31 Dittos. We're going to catch it. I'll show you guys how I'll catch it, and then we'll be good to go. Alright guys, so I've successfully chained for 30 Dittos. Now, if you guys don't know, just basically the SOS mechanics state that after 30 encounters, every Pokemon that gets called in up to a certain point will have 4 perfect stats, right? So we know that this Ditto now on my screen is gonna have 4 perfect stats, and now you're gonna have to catch the Ditto, and you can do a number of different things. You could try to give it a Lepaberry again, you could get it to turn into your Smeargle. I'm gonna just kind of wing it just for the purposes of this. I'm actually gonna knock out the first Ditto now. You can take the Lepaberry back if you are desperate for them. I personally plant mine in Poke archipelago, so I have a pretty infinite amount. He's gonna go for transform and fail, and now you basically need to just catch this thing. And this is where I'd recommend having timer balls. Timer balls are very, very useful in this situation when it comes to catching Dittos, because you have gone 30 plus turns, right? So you've gone quite a long time in battle, and you give yourself a higher chance to catch this Ditto with a timer ball. And I didn't catch it there, but I'll basically cut the video until I catch it, and then we'll check and see what kind of Ditto we have. Now do keep in mind that Ditto only gets one transform, so at this point now it's actually going to start struggling, and it could potentially knock itself out. So you do have to be a little bit careful there. It could knock itself out. Obviously you could full swipe it, and you could try to do that. There's a number of different ways to do it. You could try to paralyze it, but oh, it actually gets a couple transforms. I'm sorry, I think it gets like 4 transforms, but you have a few turns to basically try to catch it at this point before it starts to struggle. And this one annoyingly calls in a second one, so that's fine. So I'll just try to catch the second one. It doesn't matter at this point. Once you get that first Ditto on the field, it makes no difference, guys. You can catch whichever one you want. Once you get to 30, you can catch whichever Ditto you want. So I'll just catch the second one now. It doesn't matter. You don't know what the stats are. There's no real way to know. So I'll just full swipe it down, and we should be good to go. Or I'll just throw Pokeballs at it. I'll catch it, and we'll cut till that point. Okay, guys, so real quick, I did misspeak before. For some reason, I got Smeargle and Ditto confused. Ditto actually has 10 transforms, so you are pretty safe to full swipe it down, but just keep in mind, you only have 10 turns to catch it after that point. So now I got him to 1 HP, and it's pretty much guaranteed that we catch it with the timer ball now, that it's at 1 HP. We are gonna catch it. So I for some reason, I was thinking about Smeargle and only having 1 sketch, but Ditto has 10 transforms, so we're good there. So I have caught our Ditto now, and now we're gonna go to the Pokemon Center and find out exactly how good our Ditto is. And we're gonna hope for 5 perfect stats. Now, remember, we're guaranteed to have 4 perfect stats, so it's gonna be that 5th and 6th one that are randomized. And they're randomized between the numbers 0 and 31. That's just how IVs work. So you have a 1 in 32 chance, 2 separate instances of a 1 in 32 chance to get the stat that you want. So let's take a look here. So our Ditto happens to be gentle nature, which isn't exactly anything too desirable, but we'll find out exactly how his stats are. And there are this, whoa, that is a very, very good Ditto. My goodness. Okay, so that's a perfect example right there, guys. So not quite 5 perfect stats, but pretty darn close. We got 4 perfect stats and 2 stats that are looking to be probably around 27, 28 IV and maybe 25, 26 IV. So looks like we hit it pretty close there, and that's actually probably one of the best Dittos I've caught. So perfect that it was for this tutorial. So just kind of to recap, guys, you're going to need to get a Pokemon that has Substitute to basically stop for Imposter. Was that Imposter, by the way? No, it's Limber. So you need a Pokemon with Substitute and Full Swipe. You can have 2 separate Pokemon, doesn't matter. You're gonna need a Pokemon with Switcheroo or Trick holding a Lepaberry, and you're gonna need a Smeargle that only has the move Recycle. That way you can have the Ditto transform into that Smeargle, give it the Lepaberry, and have it infinitely sitting there, and then you can easily chain on the other side there and just catch the 31st Ditto or any Ditto after 30, and you'll be able to get that 4 perfect stat Ditto like we just found. Quite the good Ditto, I would say, guys. So hopefully this video helps you guys. I know that a lot of people just resort to hacking and stuff like that, and I've made a very, very solid effort in Sun and Moon successfully so far to not do any cheating or any hacking. I can tell you I'm having so much more fun than I've always had. I'm enjoying breeding the Pokemon. It's so rewarding for me personally, and this is what I've found to be the best, most effective way to get Dittos. Now, I do want to mention that I am aware that there is another method using Memento and having the Ditto transform into a Pokemon that knows Memento. Then it automatically faints itself and you don't actually have to attack the Ditto. I get it, but I feel like that's too high of a risk for you to end up in a situation where you get like an imposter Ditto to come in and it's shiny and then you just fail the shiny. So in order to avoid that, this is a little bit more of a fail-safe kind of effort, and it makes it so you don't have to really stress about that. You don't have to worry about it. It's a little less automatic, but honestly, I kid you guys not, it took me 15 minutes to get to the number of Dittos I needed. So it really wasn't bad at all, and you can see our reward here was pretty darn good, man. We got a pretty good Ditto out of this, so I'm really not gonna complain. I'm definitely not gonna complain. So that's that, guys. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. I hope you guys are excited for more tutorials and Sun and Moon videos to come. That's gonna be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'll ask about aDrive, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.